Well, folks, it's here. 7 months ago, in the city of brotherly love, the Philadelphia Eagles toppled the mighty New England Patriots 41-33 to win their first franchise Super Bowl in 3 attempts. A city that has longed for a championship in over 50 years, and it finally came to them. And then last night, to begin their title defense, they defeated the Atlanta Falcons 18-12 in one of the most penalized yet most intriguing performances I've seen from this team. I'm going to get into that in a little bit, but I just want to welcome you all to Season 7 of the Blitz Zone. Hi, everybody. I'm Eric Rosen, and I'm coming to you live from the studios of CTV in Staten Island, New York. And we got so much to get into, a lot of storylines, a lot of previews, a lot of teams. And we're going to do some college football as well, which already began their season last week. Clemson, of course, winning. And we're going to get into their upcoming matchup with Texas A&M, my beloved Gators, taking down Charleston Southern at the Swamp. Now they try to get their 32nd consecutive victory over the Kentucky Wildcats. And we'll get into some all the news and everything. But let's get started with the fact that Philadelphia, the Eagle fans, they are they are some of the most passionate fans in all sports. And if you're a New Yorker, believe me, they don't have a hesitation in showing you the passion that they have for their team. Sometimes in the form of get out of here, you New Yorker, or don't come to our game, or don't be in the stadium. No, but then again, not every Eagle fan is like that. There are Eagle fans that love New Yorkers too. After all, it is a city of brotherly love, a city filled with good cheesesteak stands like Geno's and Pat's, the city that gave us Rocky Balboa, well, the beloved character that was based on him, and of course, the Declaration of Independence. How can we forget that? July 4th, what we mostly celebrate our independence from. Anyway, beyond all that, I'm really happy for the city that they won, that they beat. This time they defeated the Patriots. Now they're trying to do the same thing the Patriots did over 10 years ago, repeat as champions. And right now they're off to a good start. They have some of the same players. The only players that left, unfortunately, Bo Allen, Vinny Curry on their defensive line, both left to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then you had LeGarrette Blount, who was part of that four-man wrecking crew in the back, operating out of the backfield. He's now a Detroit Lion. But they still have Corey Clement and Jay Ajayi, who they acquired in the October trade from the Miami Dolphins. They should send Miami a fruit basket, a gift basket, any type of basket, because Jay Ajayi is the gift that keeps on giving on the ground. He's tough. He's lean. He's the type of guy that you should never, ever go one-on-one. And if he's in open space, you're going to regret it a lot. And then you have such good receivers like Nelson Aguilar, who last night made that incredible, crazy play that he threw to Nick Foles, a 15-yard play on 3rd and 5. That was some really outstanding stuff. Then again, this is what the Eagles did last year. If my memory serves me correct, it was Trey Burton, who at the time was the tight end. Now he left to go to the Chicago Bears. The Bears. And after that play, of course, getting that touchdown to Nick Foles, that catapulted them. And eventually they won, beating the Patriots 41-33. My favorite play at the end of that of Super Bowl 52 was the Fletcher Cox hit on Tom Brady on the very last ditch attempt by Tom Brady to at least get a touchdown and possibly a 2-point conversion to send the game into overtime. It would have been the second consecutive overtime game. After all, the Patriots in 51 were able to come back from a 28-3 deficit against the Atlanta Falcons. That's right, kind of a theme I got here. The Atlanta Falcons, who blew a 25-point lead in the second half of Super Bowl 51. And then, of course, the Patriots come back in resounding fashion, and James White getting the pinnacle touchdown in overtime to win their 5th. But unfortunately, miracles don't happen 2 years in a row for the Patriots. But you know what? No matter what happens with the Patriots, players come and go. But the one thing that's constant about New England is Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. And, of course, Bob Kraft. who when he bought the Patriots back in the mid-90s, were a team that was hemorrhaging money. And he turned them into one of the top financial juggernauts of sports franchises besides the Dallas Cowboys. But let's get into, some previews or what I think is going to happen with the divisions. Let's look at the AFC East. As I mentioned, the Patriots, they've won 15 out of the last 16 division championships, including 9 straight with Tom Brady. The last time they didn't win the division was 2008, and that was the year, of course, when Tom Brady, week 1 against the Chiefs, tore his ACL, out for the rest of the season, and the Dolphins won the division that year with Chad Pennington as their quarterback, an ex-New York Jet. And as you can see, I have a New York Jet necklace on me. But folks, I'm not going to pick the Jets every single week. I can tell you that. No way. It would not make me objective. And on top of that, if they won all 16 games, it would be the second time since the Patriots did it back in 2007. Though, of course, they ended up losing to those pesky Giants, 17-14, Super Bowl 42. But anyway, in the AFC East, the New England Patriots are the kings of that division. And they're not going to be knocked off that mountaintop anytime soon. And not just the division, but the conference in general. Unless another team, like, say, in the Steel City could possibly knock them off that perch. But we'll get into them in a bit. As for the Miami Dolphins, right now, they're sort of in another year of transition, or in a year in which Adam Gase, the head coach, needs a victory. He needs a playoff appearance and a playoff win to keep his job. And he also needs the stability of Ryan Tannehill, who last year tore his left ACL, wasn't able to play in 2017, and because of that, they had to bring out, of all people, Jay Cutler, who was originally supposed to be in the broadcast booth for Fox, NFL on Fox, instead plays a quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, and you know how well that went. And they traded Jay Ajayi away because Ajayi and Adam Gase just didn't get along that well. And, well, we saw how well that worked too. Kenyon Drake has to have a very good season for this team running the ball. And Frank Gore, that veteran presence, of course, he's one of the greatest running backs of all time. 5th among active running backs in NFL history. And will probably one day, when he's a Hall of Famer, retire as a San Francisco 49er. But until then, he's with the Dolphins this year. And letting Jarvis Landry go, who led the league last year with 122 catches, I just don't understand that move. But hey, it's a gift for the Cleveland Browns. On top of all that, hopefully Coke Gate does not happen again, which I don't think will this time. Their offensive line coach will be on the straight and narrow. And no more AWOL drama, nothing of that sort. The Dolphins, overall, I think, couldn't play second, but otherwise, I don't know where the rest of their season is going to go with that receiving core. You got Devontae Parker, you got Kenny Stills. So you got some good players, but Tannehill has to have a great season. As for the Buffalo Bills, you got Nathan Peterman as the starting quarterback. He was the guy who had 5 interceptions in one half last season against the LA Chargers. And that's where my lack of confidence in this guy, that's where it comes from. Instead of going with the 7th overall pick out of Wyoming, Josh Allen, because he still needs some seasoning, but don't be surprised at some point during the season that he's going to be the starter over Nathan, because Nathan just does a good job of messing up somehow, even though he had an okay preseason this year, but that's the preseason. You're going up against guys who are most likely going to be selling insurance or working at working in a car dealership. Not that those jobs are bad or anything, but most of those guys are not going to be playing football professionally. So, come on, it's the preseason. I take that with a grain of salt. When the regular season happens, that's when I really get invested. Now, as for the New York Jets, 2 consecutive 5-11 starts. When we get a little back to the Buffalo Bills, with the offensive line issues that they have, letting Corey Glenn go, getting A.J. McCarron, then trading the quarterback to Oakland. Need to see a little more from that defense for sure. But I think things could look up. As for the New York Jets, consecutive 5-11 seasons with Todd Bowles. This time they go after Sam Darnold, number 3 overall pick out of USC, who has had issues with accuracy at times, but yet, can throw very well, runs well out of the pocket, good poise, a lot of things that to look forward to. The receiving core, being gifted with Terrell Pryor, I really am excited to see what he can do, and hopefully Robbie Anderson will not have any more stupid off-the-field issues, and Quincy Newell will keep hopefully not have another neck injury, but the pass rush for the Jets is what's going to kill them this season, and that's why I don't see them getting any more than 7 wins on the year. As for the AFC North, the Cleveland Browns will get their first win in 2 years. That I can say without a doubt. There's no way they're going to be the first team ever to be 0-16 2 consecutive years. There's no way. Plus, before that even happens, Hugh Jackson will be fired before that happens again. There's no way that John Dorsey, the new GM, is going to let an embarrassing thing like that take place. And with the acquisition of Jarvis Landry, that's a really good pickup. Getting Carlos Hyde to be in their backfield to complement Duke Johnson and Nick Chubb, who they drafted. And then Myles Garrett could have yet another great season. He had 8 sacks last year. He was the number 1 overall pick at Texas A&M. He's going to have a breakout season. And that linebacking core is with Jamie Collins and the rest of that gang right there, and Denzel Ward, who they selected 4th overall out of Ohio State. He's going to be a starter day 1. Could be the defensive rookie of the year. As for the Cincinnati Bengals, of course, they will be remembered mostly for last year's 4th and 12 play in the final game of the year against the Baltimore Ravens, a 49-yard touchdown pass from Andy Dalton to Tyler Kroft against the Ravens, and that spoiled the Ravens' year, and the Buffalo Bills ended their 17-year playoff drought and got to the playoffs. Fortunately, they lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars in the wild card round. But in the AFC North, the Bengals right now, Marvin Lewis, 3 consecutive years not making it to the playoffs after 5 straight years of getting to the postseason, losing in the wild card weekend. They need to get their first win since 1990. That's right. The Bengals haven't won a playoff game since 90 when Ickey Woods and the late Ickey Woods was playing, the Ickey Shuffle. And, of course, Boomer Esiason, who you hear every morning on The Fan when he was the quarterback. And, of course, he's always on the pre-show on the NFL on CBS every Sunday at noon. But the 2 teams that you always have to be talking about in that division are the Baltimore Ravens, who have not made it to the playoffs in 3 straight years. And this is a really big season for Joe Flacco, who has great accuracy. But I'll be honest, still, it's not him. It's the lack of weapons that he had. And the running game, Alex Collins was used sparingly. Now this is his year to have a breakout season, and they really needed tight ends. So they got Hayden Hurst and Mark Andrews in the draft, so that was a really good pickup for them. And I really like the acquisition of Michael Crabtree to go with Willie Snead, who they were able to give him a nice offer sheet as opposed to his former team, the Saints, who didn't want to match that offer. And Brashad Perriman could finally have that breakout season that we've been hoping since he came out of Central Florida. All the pieces are in place. The Ravens just can't keep having it come down to Week 17 and blowing it in a last-second play. As for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, Casey Hayward, probably one of the great defensive linemen, 12 sacks last year. And, of course, you got Big Ben Roethlisberger in another good season. And he still has Antonio Brown. You got 2/3 of the killer bees. Why do I say that? Because Le'Veon Bell still has not signed his franchise tender of $14 million. $800K a game he's saying no to because he's holding out for a bigger deal. And the people of Pittsburgh are PO'd. They are so pissed at Le'Veon right now that they just, I wouldn't be shocked if one person actually wanted to burn his jersey, which I hope you don't, because he just wasted about $80 if it's a replica and about $150 if it's a authentic jersey. But you have to understand where he's coming from. The guy is 1/3 of the offense. He not only runs the ball, he catches out of the backfield. He can get 2 defenders on him. He's great in open space. He can return the ball if needed. He really does a lot for this Pittsburgh offense. Why are you going to deny him the type of money? And he's trying to set the market for future running backs because they are woefully at times underpaid. Cornerbacks are paid a lot better. Left tackles and quarterbacks, of course, because they're the main guy under center. But the running back is just as important, I think. Sometimes even more important in certain situations. But I still think Pittsburgh wins that. And the AFC South, this is where things are a little tough for me to go with. You got Frank Reich, who's the new head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, who, by the way, gave the offer to Josh McDaniels. He said no to them. And then you have him coming in, and you got John DeFilippo coming in. Actually, no, he's not going to be with that, John DeFilippo, sorry. But nonetheless, Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, so he's going to bring some of that same offense, and he's got a great weapon coming back for the first time in 2 years, 18 months to be exact. Mr. Andrew Luck, recovering from his off-season shoulder surgery from last year, will finally have his first regular season snap. And him and T.Y. Hilton will get back to what they've done best as a great quarterback-wide receiving tandem. Now, will Marlon Mack play this week? I hope so, because this is his year to really step things up and have a breakout year. The guy coming out of FAU. And then, actually at UCF, Central South Florida. But anyway, what they really needed was offensive line help. This was a team that gave up the most sacks last year, 56. Well, they rectified that, getting Quentin Nelson, one of the best offensive line prospects at Notre Dame, and I believe Billy Price, too. Actually, no, Billy Price with Cincinnati. But nonetheless, they really have a good offensive line that could be the best in decades with Anthony Costanzo. So hopefully they keep Andrew Luck upright. As for the Jacksonville Jaguars, one of the best defense teams in the league last year. I loved it. And seeing the Tennessee Titans, they got Mike Vrabel to be their new head coach. That name is familiar to you. He was the former linebacker who won 3 Super Bowls with the New England Patriots. And then this is sort of a year in transition, of course, for them. They got Matt LaFleur as their offensive coordinator, who really did a great job working with Jared Goff with the LA Rams. And hopefully bring some of that same offensive style to Music City. And, it's just another good year for them. And I did mention the Tennessee Titans. I did mention the Jaguars, and the Houston Texans. Right now, what is going to help the Texans is the health of Deshaun Watson, who last year was a guy who, in 5 games, helped the Texans average 30 points. And then afterwards, they fell off the map, and they were 4-12. After his ACL injury in a non-contact in practice, nonetheless. And then, unfortunately, on the defensive side, J.J. Watt, for the second straight year, has a leg injury on top of the back injury he had the year before. And he was a guy who won the Defensive Player of the Year title 3 years in a row and an insane mauler on that defensive line. And Whitney Merciless, who is another guy not to mess with, a great linebacker, came at Illinois last year. Tore his pectoral. He had to be out for the year, and that hurt the defense. So if Watson, quarterback in the team, stays healthy if Watson, quarterback in the team, stays healthy along with J.J. Watt and Whitney Merciless on defense stay healthy, they're good. And overall, I think in the end of the day, I think the Jaguars will take the division. As for the AFC South, I'm thinking LA Chargers this year. Melvin Gordon is going to have yet another spectacular season on the ground running the football. I really hope that the cornerback situation after Verrett being injured, that doesn't affect them, and the fact that Joey Bosa is out this week, so Melvin Ingram is really going to be the one-man band on that defensive line, even though you have some other players. The Raiders, the return of John Gruden, my God, it's been over almost a decade since he's been out of the broadcast booth when he was on Monday Night Football, now coaching the Silver and Black in Oakland. And, the Denver Broncos, Case Keenum, their new quarterback this year that they got from the Minnesota Vikings. Overall, though, it's going to be the LA Chargers. Now, with the NFC East, I definitely like the Philadelphia Eagles to repeat again, especially seeing what we saw last night. The Giants are going to be a better 3-13 team than we saw last year. I definitely want to see the Dallas Cowboys improve, even though some of their players are gone. And the Washington Redskins, the running game is worrisome for me. That's for sure. But they have one of the best left tackles in all football in Trent Williams. And so hopefully he'll be able to keep Alex Smith upright, who, of course, came over from the Kansas City Chiefs. By the way, the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes is taking over as the quarterback. He's got a rifle for an arm. In the NFC North, the Bears, with all the acquisitions they had, but the biggest of all is Khalil Mack from the Oakland Raiders, and the price was 2 first-round picks in 2019, 2020, along with some other draft picks and a hefty contract, making one of the richest defensive linemen in NFL history, about $160 million, 4 years. Whew. Spend all that well. And as for the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers, if he doesn't have another injury, which unfortunately he had the broken collarbone, he'll be good this week and this year. And they are the favorites right now, but I think they are too. And Matt Patricia taking over the helm of the Detroit Lions organization, bringing that same crazy defensive style where you're going to probably see a lot of their safeties drop back, which with New England, they dropped back about 23% of the time in coverage, which is the most in the league last year. So you're going to see plenty of those 5 deep DB situations on the defensive side of things. And on the offensive side of things, you got Jim Bob Cooter, probably the most awesome name in all of sports, working with Matthew Stafford, who has had over 200 starts, third most active in in the NFL today, and has had 7 years of over 4,200 yards passing. He's just a monster for sure. He's a great quarterback and has had 20 fourth quarter or overtime comeback victories. Now in the NFC South, the Atlanta Falcons right now, if they want to win, that last night was not the way. And losing Keanu Neal, their stalwart safety, to an ACL injury, that doesn't make things any better. So there's going to need to be some other people to step up for sure. Robert Alford, Desmond Trufant. And they really need to find some other players to throw to besides Julio Jones. It's great that you throw to him. After all, I have him in my fantasy league. Had 10 catches last night. He had 10 catches last night, 160 yards. I'll tell you, sometimes us fantasy players, we live vicariously through the players that we select, I guess. Maybe that's just me. But anyway, getting to the NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the first 3 games of the season, Ryan Fitzpatrick taking over for Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, I'm not going to get into what he did because it's incredibly stupid, beyond belief what he did. And it's just disgusting. Sometimes for all the good things he can do as a quarterback, there are times he can be such a jerk as a human being. I wish that he can be as good a human being as he is at times a quarterback, and not hurt his team like that. And the fact that his team has to play, tomorrow against the Saints and the Steelers and the Eagles in the first 3 games, that not having Winston could hurt them. But Ryan Fitzpatrick, the journeyman, could take over. Maybe have a third or a fourth chance. Actually, make that a 5th chance. He's been with so many teams; it's hard to keep count. And the Carolina Panthers, of course, you got Riverboat Ron at the helm, coaching that team, Ron Rivera, and Cameron Newton, as quarterback, one of the most dynamic runners and as a quarterback. But this year, Christian McCaffrey, he is going to be the number 1 bell cow. This is his time to shine. And then you have Torrey Smith, who they acquired in the trade with the Baltimore Ravens, and to go with DJ Moore, and which would be great to see how he meshes with Devin Funchess, because he's a lot of fun. And then one of the greatest tight ends to play the game, Greg Olsen. Overall, I think the New Orleans Saints, though, is going to win that division. You got Drew Brees, who last year broke the NFL single season record of accuracy with 72%. Got to admire that. And you got Alvin Kamara in the backfield, Mark Ingram, though Mark Ingram is suspended for the first 4 games because of PED usage. And you got Michael Thomas, probably one of the best receivers, who had had over 100 receptions last year. And overall, you have a crazy defensive line. Cameron Jordan is a monster. 15 sacks last year. Let's go into the NFC West, it's the Rams all the way. Yes, the Cardinals have a new head coach in Steve Wilks, who came over from Carolina. That's the second straight year a Carolina defensive coordinator has become a head coach. That's right, Sean McDermott in 2017 was became the head coach of the Buffalo Bills. But getting back to the Arizona Cardinals, the only thing that's consistent is Larry Fitzgerald, who's played for so many quarterbacks. That's hard to keep up with. But what remains the same is ability to get in open space, to be a vertical deep threat. No matter how old the guy gets, he is, talk about a bionic robot like Tom Brady. He's the bionic robot of wide receivers and one of the greatest receivers to ever put on a pair of cleats. And overall, let's see with David Johnson, if he can play a full season, not have another wrist injury that took him away after week 1 in 2017 when he had a great 2016 season, 2,100 all-purpose yards. Probably one of the top 5 guys in any fantasy league to get. Let's hope he can bring that 2016 season back this year in the desert. And as for the Seattle Seahawks, talk about a year in transition. There's no more Legion of Boom. Cam Chancellor had a neck injury. He retired. Richard Sherman had an Achilles tendon injury last year. He signed with the rival 49ers. And Earl Thomas, he tried to get out of his contract. He tried to hold for a contract or get out of Seattle. None of that worked, and he reported this past Wednesday to camp with the Seahawks. He'll be in Denver in the Mile High City week 1 when the Seahawks travel to play the Broncos. But the Seahawks team, overall is really in a year transition, and the offensive line still has issues besides left tackle Dwayne Brown. He's really great. And Doug Baldwin is not at 100% still. He was hurting last year. I don't know if he's going to have that same zip that he had or that rapport he has with Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson can't run the ball too much. He's got to have some help in the backfield. And hopefully Rashad Penny, who they drafted, will be that help. As for the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo got a monster $137 million contract after having 5 consecutive victories in the month of December. He's a record 7-0 if you count his 2 starts, 2 wins with the New England Patriots. Otherwise, this is going to be the first time Jimmy G has a full year. He was supposed to have Jerick McKinnon as his running back, who signed a 4-year, $30 million contract, meaning that change of pace, add the backfield type of running back. Fortunately, in the practice before the regular season, he tore his ACL. He's done for the year. Now that job has to go to both Matt Breida and Alfred Morris. That's right. Matt Breida, who's never started an NFL game in his entire career, is going to get the start, I believe, this week. And Alfred Morris, who back in 2012, when he was drafted the same year that RG3 was, that's Robert Griffin III, he was not only was he the rookie of the year, one of the best running backs, offensive players of the year, but he broke the single season record in 2012. That was 6 years ago. Ever since, his career has been so-so. Let's see what he can do with the 49ers. But I like what the defense has with DeForest Buckner and Terron Armstead. And let's see if Richard Sherman can actually have a full year. But overall, I like the LA Rams. They got a great team altogether. You got Jared Goff in his 3rd season. Will he have the same type of numbers? Then you have Todd Gurley, who's a monster running back who can just he's dangerous underneath in open space and hell of a north-south guy. And then you have receivers this year. Brandon Cooks, acquiring him from New England, he's going to be that deep threat. Probably a lot. I think he's an upgrade from Sammy Watkins, who went to Kansas City. And then overall, other than the offense, that's going to really – the defense is really going to be the source of a lot of their victories too. Look what they got. Ndamukong Suh to team up with finally signed Aaron Donald. I fear for every offensive player, offensive lineman in that division, any team they have to play this season, because those two together is a nightmare waiting to happen. And then the secondary with the acquisition of Marcus Peters from Kansas City,